Hi friends, and welcome to the Healthy Beyond 40 show. I'm Michele, mama 4 and military wife, and I'm passionate about helping women get healthy from the inside out so they can feel better and live their best life. Do you feel like you're struggling to lose weight and get in shape? If you're ready to develop healthier habits, exercise consistently, and lose weight sustainably, then you're in the right place. I combine my expertise from my doctorate in physical therapy to my experience as a health coach, personal trainer, and yoga teacher to bring you actionable steps for a healthy lifestyle. No magic pill here, so lace up those shoes and get moving. All right. Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to have Anu on the podcast today. We're going to be talking about how healthy eating might be fueling menopause struggles, stubborn weight gain, and abdominal weight. So, Anu, tell us about you and your background.
Well, I don't think anyone just wakes up one day and says, "Oh, I'm going to be a health coach." It wasn't very different with me. I had my own gut struggles, and it just kind of led me down this path. As I healed, I thought, "Wow, I really need to get the message across to other women." And it all happened during my midlife, when things started changing, and I did the usual route of going to doctors, searching for answers, didn't get any. Then one day I decided, okay, this is enough. I really have to turn detective. So I started putting my science background to work. And we're talking, Michele, about a time when we didn't have internet or chat GPT. So I had to really go looking for answers at libraries. And that's how I discovered the microbiome and fell in love with the science behind it and really saw that as a missing piece of the puzzle, of what I was struggling with. And over the years, what I've realized is that's a missing piece for a lot of women who are going through menopause. So that's pretty much how it all started. Yeah.
And what is your science background?
I have a background in organic chemistry and I love science and nerd out on anything science. So, and in fact, the past 4 or 5 years, I've been researching about going deeper into the microbiome research because today, compared to when the Human Microbiome Project started, now we have an incredible amount of research done in the field. And so I finally wrote a book about it. It's called Flourish from Within, and it's about how diet is like the master switch when it comes to microbial health. And the whole book is about feeding the microbiome. So,
yeah, wonderful.
And it's exciting.
Yeah. And so that sort of leads us into, so what about women who are in their midlife and they feel like they're eating healthy, yet they still can't lose weight or they're even gaining weight? So what do you think is going on behind the scenes with that?
Yeah, so it's such a conundrum, right? Finally, when there's time to kind of take care of yourself, my clients always say, I finally know that I exercise, I have more time for me, but anything I do, nothing is working. So when I started seeing this pattern over and over again, and of course it was me as well, I realized that women are asking the wrong question. It's not about what diet is perfect for me or which workout is great for me, but it's really about what's happening in my biology. What's shifted that I'm not responding the same way? And so when you start asking the right questions, obviously the answers follow, and that's, I'm sure you'll agree with me, that's usually how it you need to ask the right questions. So in midlife, what happens is estrogen tanks. And when estrogen drops, the gut environment changes along with it. So when we think about estrogen, we think about reproduction, but it's way more than that. Estrogen is doing so many things behind the scenes. So one of the things that it does is it takes care of your gut microbiome. So it keeps your gut barrier nice and tight. It helps with bile flow. It helps with keeping that chronic inflammation at bay. And then when microbial diversity drops in midlife, it slows down the bowel flow. There are fewer microbes at play, so we're not doing the same kind of work and functions. So all of that is changing, and when that changes, it's not that our metabolism is broken, because that's something I hear a lot. It's just that we need to kind of rethink how we're going to recalibrate it. And one of the first things I focus on is the microbiome, because your microbes are your forever guests. They're doing a lot of things for you, and I want to connect that to the brain. I want to connect it to the hormones, and just reframe that conversation, so women in midlife, start feeling confident about their bodies again. And not the story about everything has changed. I just feel really awful. I'm bloated. We need to ask why. And the why is really happening within the gut as a starting point.
Yeah, and I like that flip from just looking at the external things, which, I mean, healthy eating, exercise, I'm all about. But we also need to say, like you said, what's happening inside.
Yeah.
And knowing that as our hormones change and estrogen is decreasing, that there can be gut changes with that. Like you were saying, the gut barrier can change. Inflammation can change. We can have more inflammation. We can have less diversity in our gut that impacts us. So all these things inside are happening that we have no idea about.
Yeah, I think of it as like an organ that we don't see. But it's there, and it's doing a lot of things. And the fact that it's connected to the brain, it's connected to your immune system, it's connected to so many things. It just really makes sense for us to start focusing on our gut. Because we do hear that women in menopause or midlife talk about gut changes. They say, I was completely okay digesting the same foods like a few years ago. What happened now? I can't seem to digest it anymore. So the one thing to remember is, when your microbial diversity decreases and estrogen, for example, there are a bunch of bacteria in the gut called estrobolome, and their job is to help recirculate and process the estrogen. So when that goes off track, and they produce an enzyme called beta glucuronidase, and when there's a problem right there, that can shift microbial diversity as well, and how you handle estrogen. So the confusing part about estrogen is when we go into midlife, and we know that we're not producing as much estrogen, and we're having some low estrogen symptoms like hot flashes, night sweats. But at the same time, if we're not really recirculating the estrogen, and it's getting stagnant, we could also have other issues like that belly fat, like that, excess fat and things like that. And added to this drama is the cortisol is a hormone, right? And it increases during estrogen, and that can exacerbate that weight gain in the wrong place. And when I say wrong place, we as women generally have our fat in our thighs and hips. But as we move into midlife, that weight, we become more like a man. We start adding that weight in our viscera, in our visceral fat around in our belly. And that's also evolutionary. We want that fat very close to the organs to use our energy. And why is that happening? One of the big reasons is in menopause, and this is something I tell my clients all the time, you're losing muscle, because estrogen has a huge role to play in muscle. And muscle is I think, probably the most metabolically active tissue that we have. So when muscle decreases, mitochondria's function decreases, we are burning fat, burning calories. We're not burning calories in the same way as we used to. So all of that causes more of a problem. We have that cortisol, that stays elevated much longer. We are our resting metabolic rate decreases. We're not being as our body is not burning food the same way. So all of this adds to the problem. So right here, what I want listeners to pay attention to is if we start asking the basic question, what is happening to my biology? Then you have the answers. Hey, nothing's broken with me. Something is slightly shifting. We just need to make sure that the direction in which our bodies are going is the right direction. And that means none of the things that we did in our 20s and 30s are going to work in our 40s and 50s. So that's just the way it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll wait. So later I'll ask you, like, is there anything we can do to avoid this? But first, let's go. What would be some of the symptoms that people would see if their gut microbiome is off?
Yeah. Well, that's a great question, and it can be downstream. It can be anywhere, right? Because the gut is just the microbiome. The gut microbiome was connected to the brain. We have a bidirectional situation here. The gut and the brain are talking in constant conversation. Dr. Mayerth, who I'm working with, calls it the brain gut system, and I love that, because it's a system, and there's a constant communication happening. So the gut is sending way more messages to the brain than the other way around. And Michelle, you may have seen this. Anyone with gut issues, almost always we notice that they have some connected to brain issues like anxiety or maybe brain fog and things like that. So because this bidirectional conversation is happening through the 10th cranial nerve, the vagus nerve, and when that cortisol is high and things are all changing, everything is going awry, that vagal tone more than anything needs to be strong. We need to strengthen that vagal tone so that bidirectional communication is good. So someone could be seeing as an immediate thing, they could be seeing bloating, they could have more gas formation, and this is happening because they don't have the right bacteria to go to bat for them. They don't have the bacteria that can digest the fiber and produce important metabolites like short chain fatty acids. So to back up a little bit, we don't digest fiber. We've handed over the digestion of fiber to our forever guests, our microbes in the gut, and they do a phenomenal job. So as we digest food, finally goes to the colon. All of the fiber gets digested by the gut microbiome, and they produce some incredible metabolites called short chain fatty acids, especially butyrate. And butyrate is great for strengthening the gut barrier. It decreases inflammation. It communicates with the mitochondria. In fact, the mitochondria it comes from an ancient bacteria, and that endosymbiosis is something I think it remembers very clearly and looks at butyrate as a signal. So do you see right there what you eat matters? How you feed the microbiome really matters. How you take care of the existing muscle that you have is so important. So protein becomes very important. So I always say, let's anchor the protein, surround with fiber. So we have the best of both worlds, and we're taking care of the body that we have become in our midlife. How our body's adapting, our ecosystem is adapting to a new body.
Yeah, and it's almost, we have this idea of exercising, taking care of our body, taking care of our muscles, trying to keep our muscle mass as we age. But then it's also this idea of how can I take care of my gut? Because that has big impact on everything. And as you were saying, the gut brain connection, I've even seen with some clients who have cut back or gotten rid of processed sugar, and their anxiousness drops way down.
Yeah.
And they're so surprised.
Yeah.
But it makes a big difference.
Absolutely. I mean, because I always tell my clients, with how the Western diet is, it's like how, Michelle, if you and I went to Home Depot and looked for something to eat, it is that foreign to the microbiome. It doesn't understand the ultra processed foods and all the things that we're eating today. So because it's evolutionary speaking, they're looking for one thing. They're looking for fiber, and we're not giving them. The American Western standard American diet is so low in fiber. Is it any wonder that we have so many across the board, from an immune perspective, from an gut-brain perspective, cardiovascularly. We are having so many issues today because of diet.
Yeah, a lot of it just like isn't even food, and it's all new to really our all this processed food is so new to us as a
Yeah,
human race. It hasn't been around long. I was just talking with a client who she really needs like 4 meals a day, just her unique schedule. She can't have enough at this early dinner her family has, so she has to eat something else. And she's been eating snack foods and stuff that just aren't great. And I'm like, let's not even think of it as a snack. It's going to be a mini meal because in our mind, a lot of us think of snack and it's like processed food or sugar. I'm
yeah,
like, what can we get that has like some protein, fiber? What would be something that would be nourishing to our bodies? And more of that is related to having, a mini healthy meal, right? Like a
right.
small bowl of soup would be so much better than a sweetened yogurt and some chocolate.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it's switching that out. So tell me, is there anything that, so even though women are going through perimenopause, menopause, and their hormones are changing, what can they do? Can they prevent some of this happening, or is there still going to be like some disruption?
Yes, first of all, just knowing that this is another stage in life and just calming the nervous system and saying, okay, this is like I think traditional Chinese medicine says it beautifully, says it's a second spring. And I love that. There's wisdom and confidence that we as women, acquire because of our existence. And we learn so much, how we frame this life, how it's changed is also important. I think it's, sometimes when we are at crossroads and we don't quite accept where we are in this journey called life, that can cause problems, which are more, the ramifications from that are way more than just a simple diet or a workout, I think, so reframing our mindset and accepting where we are and saying, yes, the old rules are not going to work anymore. I just need a whole new set of rules because my body has changed, and gracefully kind of step into the new body and understand the science behind it and look at it as, I need to take care of my microbiome, I need to take care of my brain, I need to take care of my the muscle and mitochondria, of course, and look at the hormonal input and how can I feed this new body. And that means no more restrictive diets that worked for us in our 30s. We could get away with anything in our 20s and 30s. I mean, I've done juice fasts and lost weight, and I'm like, wow, this is cool. Or I didn't even have to do that. Sometimes it was just so silly, some of the things that I did. And it was, but I can't mimic that, now and expect to lose weight because our body is not recognizing it as discipline, it's recognizing it as danger. When we are not feeding it enough, it's saying, wow, something is happening. Let me hold on to the weight. And it's holding on to the weight in all the wrong places. For us, that's the viscera, the metabolically active kind of fat that I hear women, every woman complain, oh my gosh, what's wrong with me? Why do I have this belly fat? That's changed. So we start feeding it right. And like when in your 20s or 30s, it didn't matter. You could have a donut in the morning and nothing would happen. You'd have enough muscle. In your midlife, that protein in the morning becomes very important. Leucine, especially, you want that muscle protein synthesis. You want to have get some of that muscle back, right? Get some synthesis going. And then fiber is very important. And one thing that I'd like to explain about this is some people have bought into the story of protein really well and they take in a lot of protein. No problem with that. But if you're doing it at the cost of not feeding your microbes, then you are going to have issues downstream. And the reason I say that is our gut microbiome is, they just digest fiber, right? They're not really cut out for protein, metabolism. They don't do proteolytic or protein fermentation. But if you're taking in a lot of protein and not enough fiber, that protein eventually, the protein that hasn't been digested, or if it's an excess amount of protein, ends up in the colon. And the microbes, some of them, especially the pathogenic kind, end up eating it because you're starving them. They don't have the fiber. And they produce some toxic metabolites that are not good for us. Think about things like hydrogen sulfide, which is that rotten egg smell when you pass gas, ammonia, picrosol. If you have an overabundance of these toxic metabolites, you could have a lot of symptoms that are, and starting out as symptoms, but it could blow up into something that you don't want. One of the major connections we see is colon cancer and lack of fiber in the diet, cardiovascular issues, lack of fiber. So there's definitely a lot of research behind, not just centered to gut and gut health or gut and brain, but in every possible way. I mean, think about immune system and think about our children. And maybe you've seen this too, Michelle. I don't recall ever having peanut allergies or, things like that. But now it's like every child has an EpiPen and things like that. What is happening? So if you think about, more than 70% of the immune system is in the gut. And our microbes are the training ground for them. They're telling the immune system, hey, react to this, be cool on this is neutral, or don't do anything, that sort of thing. And if you don't have enough microbial diversity doing this job, your immune system is it's creating havoc. It doesn't know how to respond. So is it any wonder that we have so many allergies now to foods? Because our oral tolerance is decreased. We're not producing enough of the enzymes that we need, and we don't have the microbial diversity. I don't know if that answered the question, but that's where my brain went.
No, that's good. Yeah. So it started off with talking about we need to calm the nervous system. And I've talked about that a lot on here before, right? If we're dysregulated, that can disrupt hormones and all different types of things. And then I loved how you had the mindset piece too, like changing our thoughts and acceptance that our body is changing and things are different. And that's okay. Just because I can't eat, a bag of cookies and sit on the couch all night and have no impact, like that's okay. It wasn't healthy for us in the first place, but we just see a bigger impact as we get older. And really thinking about our microbiome, our brain, and our muscle as we are aging. A lot of people want to focus just on weight or something external, but we need to think about these internal things because that is really what being healthy is about. Yeah. And you also sort of brought up is we can't do these extreme diets anymore. And here on this podcast, I'm all about healthy habits to help us get where we want to be because that's what's going to sustain it. So doing these extreme diets are not helpful, right? We can lose our muscle mass. It can disrupt our hormones. And we see that short-term, what we think is a gain, that short-term weight loss, but it usually comes back and sometimes comebacks even more. And then it makes us feel like crap and it makes us feel like we can't do this and there's something wrong with us. And that's not true at all. Just the thing that you're doing is not the right thing. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode today and make sure you stay tuned for next week. I'm going to have part 2 and we're going to continue this conversation and really dive more into the gut. So keep on moving and have a great week, guys.